So I'm 28 years old and I'm running a $40 million company at 28.
Holy smokes. What do you wish in that moment that somebody would have told you?
I think that everything will be okay. My greater fear was that I was going to miss my girls growing up.
What's your pet peeve?
People who say doing the dishes is putting them in the sink. My wife, Diane, and I go on vacation together regularly. And when we're on vacation together, I obsessively love doing the dishes.
Where's your favorite place to do dishes then?
Well, Italy, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to Italy regularly.
Welcome back to A Hard Reset. Very excited about this episode because I have my ex-boss on, but who is also an incredible leader and just a great friend. We are also competitors on the golf course, which is really cool. I don't know why, but he invites me to play in his very fancy member guest called the Bull. We have won our flight a couple of times and been in a shootout a couple of times, which is fun. But ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Macaluso.
Thanks for having me, Martin.
Dude, so excited that you're here and you're making the time for me. I know that, you have a lot of time now.
I do. I do have time, yeah.
Yeah, which is a great place to be at.
It is, yeah. I would say that you reach a certain age, you've worked hard, and maybe that's the benefit of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we're all kind of going after.
It is.
Before we get into like how we know each other, which I think is super fascinating, and I would love to ask you, like, what's your pet peeve?
Ooh, good question. My pet peeve, I'll tell you what it is. People who say doing the dishes is putting them in the sink. Okay? That's my pet peeve.
Yeah, I that's not doing dishes.
No.
Do you like doing dishes?
I don't mind it. It's funny because Diane and I my wife Diane and I go on vacation together regularly, and we always stay in an Airbnb. And when we're on vacation together, I obsessively love doing the dishes. Okay? I love it. And when we're at home, I mostly do them, and I don't love it, but I do it. And I'm teasing a little bit about leaving dishes in the sink because that's a pet peeve of Diane's, is that I bug her about putting her dishes in the sink. And so
not putting them in
in the dishwasher, which is literally right next to the sink. And she's going to kill me for bringing this up. But
where's your favorite place to do dishes then?
Well, Italy, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to Italy regularly.
Do y'all have a place there?
We are part of a restaurant group that we are invested in called Yeppa. Shout out Yeppa.
YEPPA.
YEPPA in Buckhead, and opened up a second location in on the Beltline over by Krog Market downtown, doing incredibly well. And part of that group is the collective ownership purchased a place and rebuilt a place in Rimini, Italy. Rimini, which is East Coast, right next to the beach, maybe 5 minutes from the beach, in a really cool area on a vineyard.
No way.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so we go and visit.
And you get to stay there?
Get to stay there, yeah, as part of the partnership. Yeah.
Wow. How many bedrooms?
Part of the brand, 8 bedrooms. Ooh. So it's like a bed and breakfast, or you can rent the whole place.
Yeah.
Villa Yeppa is the name of the place. Total branding opportunity.
Yeah.
Look us up on Instagram, Villa Yeppa.
We have hundreds of thousands of followers. So
I know that's one of the things that draws me to you, Martin, is your successful strategy on Instagram.
Yeah, for sure. Super successful. So how do we know each other?
Okay, so I used to own a roofing business that I bought in 2012. And
that long ago.
Yeah. 13 years ago. And you were one of our 2 top reps.
Yeah.
Battling it out with another
I tell
gentleman.
myself I was the top rep.
You were at sometimes, but then other times you weren't necessarily as focused as you might have been, particularly on Fridays.
Yeah.
But you always hit your numbers and did really well. And I loved working with you for that time. And I'm sure we'll get into the details of that.
I'll never forget. So it's funny, I was out in Kennesaw for this thing on Saturday, and I was driving back, and the guys that I was with had no idea where we were, but I was coming down Sandy Plains right on 92 and past the old office, And I'll never forget my interview there when I started in 2006, but also the day where we were all on that deck patio. Literally, there's this really handsome guy with glasses. You were wearing like, it wasn't flannel, but it was like a checkered shirt. And the guy that owns Dr. Roof, who is just an incredible, smart, wonderful human, he was very much eccentric, and so many roofing companies have started because of him.
Yeah.
And because the barrier entry is not there. Nope. But I just remember him basically introducing and telling us that he was selling the company and you were coming on board. And I'm just like, who is this guy?
Oh.
And everyone would throw like their knowledge at you. And it's like, listen, I'm not here to be like this roofing guru, but I know how to run a business.
Yeah. That was a terrifying day because I could see in everybody's eyes, they're looking at me going, I'm out of here.
Sizing you up.
Yeah, sizing me up. And on the deck on it was like March 12th, I believe. And it was terrifying because I'm looking around and I'm thinking, these guys all already are thinking, who is this corporate guy who's coming in and he's going to change everything and he's going to want to put it, he's going to cut our pay, he's going to fire us. And quite frankly, I don't think that anybody understood how much I needed them way more than they needed me. And especially in the beginning. And my agenda was try to stay out of the way, which was, again, easy to do for a while.
But like, what makes a good business to buy? Like, how did you look at this business? Like, this was before the trades were sexy, in my opinion, like 2012. It wasn't like where it is today with private equity and all.
So, okay. What made this business attractive to me was a couple things. And let's take a step back maybe and look at my background. I grew up in the office supply business. Okay. I graduated from college a long time ago.
Soccer star?
Fresno State, no, not a star. Fresno State University, Harvard.
I love how humble you are.
Yeah, not a star.
But you played college soccer.
I did. Yeah. And
which takes talent.
Not to be a backup, but that's another story for another day. Graduated from college in 1989, economy terrible, and I got a job. I just wanted to go back to San Francisco to go back home, which is where I grew up. And my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife.
No way.
Yeah.
She went to Fresno State too?
She also went in college. Yeah,
Shout out to Di.
Shout out to Di Mac. We just wanted to move to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
We wanted to get back to San Francisco and start a life and figure out what to do. So I got a job at an office supply store, tiny little company. It was a retail store with some salespeople in San Francisco, and I was making $1,200 a month, and I was stocking shelves. That was my training program. I was going to be a salesperson, but I was basically stocking shelves. Okay, and that was the vaunted training program that they promised me. And then somebody quit in the customer service department, so they shifted my training program to being a customer service rep.
Is this like a mom and pop?
Very
office?
much so.
Oh, okay.
Very much so. Tiny, like $6 million in sales.
Wow.
Basically in downtown San Francisco, and then kind of around the suburbs a little bit with a small warehouse. And then that company, and then I got into sales and I did well. And it was kind of unique because I was a 22-year-old and I had no fear because I didn't know any better. And so I started selling and did well. And he hired another college graduate with me, and she did very well. So he fell upon this idea that we can sell more if we get these young, hungry people who don't understand failure or don't understand the fear of cold calling. And I mean, we literally would go business to business and collect business cards. That was our lead generation, was collecting business cards from businesses.
Smile and dial, babe.
From the receptionist and writing names down, and then go back to the office and call them and say, hi, can I talk to the person that does the office supplies there? And then we eventually grew it, so made commissions and started doing better. And then they asked me to be a sales manager. Can you go hire 6 more people like you? And I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. So I'm a 24-year-old sales manager with these people underneath me. I had no training, no reason to be a manager at all.
Yeah.
And some of them did well, some of them didn't. Then the company grew from 6 million to about 20 million.
Wow.
Okay, on that
under your
on
leadership.
But
I mean, but
less
you were
to
the
do with
manager.
some of me. I was part of the management team, and then the company grew. They got more, and so the company got acquired and all the kind of like the roofing industry now, where
Sure.
everything is rolling up to be national and better purchasing and all that. So when the company got bought, they approached me about moving to Portland to be
Oregon or Maine?
Oregon, to be the VP of sales. And there was a broken business there that was
The bigger business.
It was not bigger. It was actually smaller.
Oh.
But it was in charge of the Northwest to be the VP of sales there. And that was to leave San Francisco. Nobody left San Francisco when I grew up. You just didn't leave. It was just, why would you leave? This is the greatest place on the planet.
Yeah.
Nobody leaves. And so we said, well, we'll go there and then, we'll come back. And Diane and I got married, and 9 months later, we were living in Portland. Then I became the president. The division was losing money. They fired the guy that was my boss like 90 days after I got there. And they brought in a new guy, and we grew the business. We started doing well. And then he got promoted, and then they gave me the chance to be the president of that division. So I'm 28 years old, and I'm running a $40 million company. Yeah. At 28.
Holy smokes.
So, yeah.
Are you winging it?
Yeah. without
knowing it,
without
but yeah.
question,
Yeah.
I was winging it. And
What is that like?
well, I think it was hard, but at the same time, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I shouldn't be doing this. And I had a really great group of people who took me under their wing, and that was a huge deal. Having mentors to grab you and say, not just, hey, you can do this, but I believe in you.
Yeah.
And that I would look for those people in my business life. That was unbelievable how lucky I was to be surrounded by people who actually believed in me and cared about me. So we fixed it when it became a very profitable business, and then the company got merged with another big company, called Corporate Express.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
And then I got a reputation as a guy who could fix kind of not well-performing businesses. And so
What was like the big thing that you could go in and was it staffing? Was it?
So broken businesses, for me, I looked at three different things. Are the employees happy? Are they being treated well? Do they understand the mission that's in front of them and the expectation of their job? Do the customers like what you're delivering? Are they happy? Are the customers satisfied with the product that you're selling? Is it on time? Is it in full? Is it accurate? Is it delivered as expected at the price it was expected at? And then are the shareholders happy? Because if you have happy employees
Yep.
and happy customers, your shareholders will tend to be happy too.
Sure.
Because your business is modeled on that sort of triangular environment.
Yep.
And
But when one of those is broken,
when one of those is broken, then your business is going to suffer. I find that in every environment that I go into, whether it's now doing board work or back then, there was broken environment, usually in the first two. Okay. Because the employees were frustrated because they weren't able to satisfy the customer. Customers were obviously satisfied because they're trying to spend money with you, and you're not doing what you said you could do.
Sure.
And you're not meeting their need. And so then you have to spend more to fix it.
Yep.
And then, you just follow the line. When I moved to Atlanta the first time, broken business. 3 years later, top business. They said, we want you to go to England.
which is wild.
Yeah. So we picked up.
How do you tell Diane this? Like, hey, I know you love Atlanta, or you love the States, but
I wouldn't have gone if she wasn't supportive. And
Sure.
it was a family group. She was really central to the decision making.
Yeah.
It was not something that I said, hey, we're moving again. It was always, hey, they have this offer. How do you feel about it? And Diane was up for it. She knew this was an adventure. Our kids, when we moved to England, were 2 and 1. Wow. So they were babies.
Yeah.
And she was like, let's go. Why not?
Yeah.
We get to live in Europe for 3 years. So we picked up and moved there and had a great time and fixed that one.
This is another
3 years.
Okay.
Everything 3 years.
Not by design.
No.
But just happened to be that way.
On the day.
Wow.
It was always September 1st was always moving day for some reason.
No way.
Yeah, don't know why. It was just random.
So is this another like office supply company?
Yeah, same part of the
Still
global
Corporate
company.
Express?
Still
Okay.
Corporate Express. The England divisions had lost half their business, and then we got that turned around. Then now people started to pay attention to me because it's like, hey, what, this guy's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I
He
think.
keeps fixing these broken
fixing
things.
them.
Yep.
And so
How old are you at this time?
I am now 40
Okay.
ish. Yeah. Well, yeah, 40. I turned 40. Yeah. When we were in England.
Yeah.
So I came back and to make this long story longer, I was the last position I had at Corporate Express. I was running the eastern third of the U.S. with $1 billion responsibility, and I'm 42.
Holy smokes.
And so I started, remember, stocking shelves.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, I'm running a third of the country. And then the company was taken over by Staples, and they jettisoned me and all the other people at my level.
No way.
Yeah.
They're like, we have people.
We don't need you. We just need the customers and the salespeople. And so you're overhead, and here's your gold watch, and thanks for everything. Goodbye.
Here's your global what?
Here's your gold watch.
Oh, your gold watch.
Yeah, thanks very much. You're all gone.
No way.
Yes. So in 2008, which is the absolute worst time
Yeah.
to be out of a job, I was out of a job for a year. And I started working about a year later. I got a job with an outsourcing company, and I was on a plane every week, Monday, coming back Friday.
No way.
Every week, yeah. And I really didn't enjoy it, but I needed a job, right? So I did what I had to do. And the job was essentially taking people who are working in manufacturing or janitorial work or something and replacing longtime employees who were making good money, enough money to feed their family, and replacing them with minimum wage workers. That was the job. And during that time, the unemployment was 12, 13%. And it was a terrible, and I hated it. I absolutely hated the job. So I picked a fight with my boss and got fired because I was getting on a plane every week, and I was my marriage was not suffering, but it was stressful.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you hate your job, then it's going to affect your home.
Never saw the kids, missed a lot of stuff, and decided that was going to be my hard reset. Actually, I was going to start doing for myself and buy a company for myself, so I didn't have to do that anymore. Didn't have to get on a plane. Didn't have to miss my kids' stuff, travel. I figured it out at that time that I was making a lot of money for other people, and why shouldn't I be able to try and do that for myself?
Yeah, so that's interesting that you say that. So your hard reset came in and like you're just miserable. You're having to basically let these guys go, and then like obviously the service becomes terrible, right? Because if you're if you're putting minimum wage workers, no offense to them, but into these positions just to save the company money, it's like the customer's going to be affected by that.
Totally, and it was just an uncomfortable sales pitch where, and nobody loved the environment back then. It was, if you remember that movie Up in the Air with George Clooney, that was essentially, that was that environment. And it was a terrible, terrible time. And I remember I was commuting to Cleveland. I spent a lot of time in Cleveland, and I remember the hotel that I would stay in when I was there, to get there was like 2 or 3 blocks, and the walls were just boarded up. There was no businesses in downtown Cleveland at all. And here I am trying to put more people out of work. And I just didn't enjoy that. Yeah. So I just decided I wanted to buy something else.
So you got in an argument with your boss. The story that I remember is like you somehow got your boss to move you to Atlanta, right? Or
that was at Corporate Express.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was, oh man, God bless he was my best boss, Jay. He knew that we were all going to be out of a job at Corporate Express.
Oh, because of the Staples deal.
Because of the Staples acquisition. Gotcha. So he bought my house. He had the company buy my house so that he knew Diane wanted to get back to Atlanta.
Gotcha.
And so he bought our house. He had the company buy our house and said, I need you to be in your territory, because my territory was the East Coast.
Yeah.
And so he allowed us to be able to he moved my family before the acquisition so that we would be able to end up in a place that we wanted to be, knowing we would be out of a job. And that's, I mean, what a great boss, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, to do that on his
For
own
sure.
initiative, just to make sure that we were taken care of.
Okay, so then you got fired, and then now you're up in the air, and you're back and forth, and you're just like, I can't do this anymore. So
Yeah.
like, how do you like buy a business? Like,
So I started looking through, sitting in Starbucks coffee, started looking through websites that sold businesses, and found one, met with them, wasn't great fit. And then the broker who was selling that company called me a short time later and said, hey, I got this company that kind of fits your profile. And
what was your profile?
my profile was something that was sort of recurring business model, recurring revenues, but necessarily wasn't the most profitable, but could be improved.
Yeah.
But something that had a good foundation, something that was local, that couldn't be taken over by a conglomerate like an Amazon.
Sure.
You know, we weren't competing with that. It was very, like you said, there's very fragmented in that space. And so I was looking for something that was going to be in that frame.
Were you kind of looking at just the service industry or?
No.
Oh, okay.
Any business that had some sort of recurring revenue model.
Okay.
I was very open. I didn't have anything because, like I said, my triangle isn't about, you know, the business thing we talked about. It's about that.
Yeah.
And every business that has that
It's the same.
Yeah, it is the same. And I just looked at that company and thought, and I was convinced by the old owner, David, that you don't have to know roofing. It's really as much about running a business and marketing. And roofing you can learn, you know, enough to be dangerous. But what you really need is to be able to have leadership and strategy and, you know, the ability to be able to move the business forward.
So your broker finds this roofing company.
Yeah.
And shows you, like, I guess the numbers or whatever and what it looks like on paper. And you're like, yeah, this seems right. And then I guess you and David have to have conversations.
Yeah, it lasted quite a while. I didn't have the money to buy it, so I had to also go to the bank and find somebody to lend me the money. But David and I, who was the former owner, God rest his soul, David Friedlander, David was selling the company because he was sick. And he wanted to make sure that his son, who was an employee of the company, would be looked after while he moved to Israel. And the motivation for him, what was more important than how much I paid for it, was that I promised that I would take care of his son in Israel. And this was before everybody was off site, you know.
Yeah.
And so
Pre-COVID.
pre all that. And I thought, well, there's no way this is going to work.
Yeah.
And he's still the CFO of that company, by the way. You know,
wild.
13 years later, yeah.
What extension, when you call the office, is like 613 or something? I still remember when he moved to Israel, and it was like you would dial the extent, you would call the phone number, and then you dial the extension, and then you would be talking to a guy in Israel who was like uber smart and like such a great guy and leader and all that stuff. But that to me was like the craziest thing. I was like, what do you mean this guy's going to live in Israel and still work at this company? Like the hours are different. Like how was that even?
He made it work.
Yeah.
And he was essential. You know, he
Yeah.
was really, really an essential guy. So that's how the company got bought. I put my house on the line, took every nickel I had for a down payment, and got an SBA loan for the rest, and paid for the company.
So what part of the triangle would you say was broken at the time?
I don't know if it was broken as much as it was just there was a lot of turnover at the company. I think that the customer service portion of that company was very, very good. And it had a lot of internal knowledge and a long-standing, it had been in business since 1988. So a lot of happy customers through the time. I think that the you know, I don't want to sound like it was broken, but it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
The employee sort of leadership was not what I would say as great as it could have been.
Sure.
And I think that there was just, for whatever reason, a lot of entrepreneurs, and you're an entrepreneur, right? They fall back on, you know, the habits that they have, and there's not necessarily the same kind of leadership growth that you might need.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, how do you lead your company today? You know?
Yeah. I mean, by luck. No, but I do believe I've never heard the triangle, but that makes a lot of sense. Like I believe if we can be customer obsessed and employee obsessed, like obsessed with how the employees feel and are treated at this company, right? They feel valued. They know that they can always come to us. We're okay with failure, and then also from our customer standpoint is like we're so obsessed with the customer experience that at the end of the day, like we can still be successful. And obviously we're not perfect, but yesterday we had a lady email me and she just got back from vacation and she was like, she had shingles in her driveway. And we did the roof in 2018. And, when I first started this thing, we didn't do great at paperwork and all that stuff. So like I remembered her, but she was like, hey, I got these shingles in the yard. But within 6 hours, we had inspected and repaired the roof. Yeah. And that's the customer obsession piece that I think is what you're mentioning is like, man, if the customer's taken care of, like your company's probably going to flourish.
100%. Because it's all about in this business. Because look, if you put a roof on properly, you shouldn't see that customer again.
Correct.
Right? 30 years later, unless they move, which is always,
correct.
Great.
Which is the downside to this company is not necessarily residual.
Yeah, well, but
kind of.
Somewhat. When the business has been around for 30 years, it is because they come back around.
Yep.
And they, you build a brand and everybody tells their neighbor, because nobody goes, to buy a roof based on an ad that they hear, even though it's good to have the brand. What they do is they go to their neighbor and they say, hey, my roof is leaking. Who did you use? I saw you had, okay. So you use them. Okay. I'll call them too. I mean, that's really most of the business that you get, right? I mean, I heard you on the radio, but I also heard from your neighbors, and then I looked you up online.
Saw a billboard.
Saw your Google reviews. I saw your presence online. And so you look like a real company to me. And I'm not going to get up on the roof, so I have to trust that it's going to be done properly.
Yep.
And so that it's all about that trust factor to make things, to do it right. Do it the right way and have a feeling that it's done properly.
So you said it was 2012 when you bought. Okay. So what does that look like? Okay. You're going through this hard reset, right? And you're like, okay, now I'm going to put all my eggs in this one basket and trust in this roofing company, which it's like, what are we doing here? It's like, at the end of the day, it's like, it's roofing. So you buy this company and then you look at your triangle matrix that you've created and you're like, make a tweak here, make a tweak here.
Yeah.
And then what?
It's funny because I remember it. I remember it really well. We had the company at the time, if you'll remember this, we had a general manager who made a commitment to me that he would stay and run the company. Okay. And my intention was always for him to stay and run the company, and I would sort of do the marketing and oversee it, manage the financials and kind of the bigger picture stuff, the branding, and he would sort of run the day-to-day. I think it was within 60 days, he quit and went to a competitor and tried to take all of our good people with him. And that forced me into a situation where I had to step into that role when I was not necessarily prepared to. That wasn't necessarily the role that I had envisioned for myself at the time.
And weren't we in a drought?
It was. Yeah. It didn't rain for the first 60 days that I had the company. So, in July, the company lost money. And I was down to my last, $50,000. And you have to meet payroll, right?
Yep.
And we didn't have a lot of business coming in at the time. And I remember, I had tremendous back pain. And I couldn't figure out why. And I was not sleeping. And, so here we have this roofing company. I don't know really anything about roofing.
Scary.
Our general manager, who's supposed to run the company, who promised me he would run the company, quit, went to a competitor.
And starts poaching.
Took a couple people with him. Business is losing money. I probably got enough money to carry the payroll for about 2 weeks. And I don't know what to do. And then it started raining. I'll never forget it. It rained. And then it rained some more. And then the phone rang. And then everything got back to, people started working. It was stressful as heck.
Yeah.
For the first, probably the first year, because we went down. The first year the revenues went down.
Yeah.
And I was eternally grateful to all the people who stayed, because everybody helped the company and helped me to be able to stick with it.
But I mean, I have goosebumps. I have the utmost respect for you and for you as a boss. And I try to emulate some of the things that maybe you don't even know that you do, but I try to do with my staff and my employees because it's how you made me feel. Like, I'll never forget, like, I closed a big deal and you took me to, I think it was called the King and Duke restaurant.
Yeah.
Which was in Bucket. Like, I'm a huge food guy. And you were like, yeah, dude, like, you crushed this month or whatever. Let me, like, I try to always remember, like, those little things that you did. It just blows me away that the risk that you took, right? And then 60 days in, you're like, oh crap, I put my house up for this and it's not raining. Like, what do I do? And then these people are leaving. Like, how do you manage that stress? Like, you have the back thing, and it's like,
I had back pain. I was going to a chiropractor and not sleeping. And I never, at that time, I didn't want to share that information with my wife because I didn't want her to get
to worry.
Okay. So you carry that. That's the man, right?
Sure.
You carry that burden yourself.
Yep.
And in hindsight, I didn't have to do that because she's been
you're a team.
What a great partner she's been, moving all over the world, and uprooting her life for our career. It's not my career; it was our life, and moving, and that's stressful. But I didn't want to. I just felt this need not to burden her with how bad it was.
Yeah.
So, and my children were going to Catholic school, which isn't cheap, at the time.
They have free schooling.
They do, but I mean, we wanted to raise our kids in a Catholic school environment, and that was important to us. And so, I didn't have the nerve probably to tell her we are in trouble.
Yeah, this is not looking good.
It was not looking good. So
it rains and then the phone starts ringing. Everyone's like, do you love it when a storm comes? It's like, I don't love it when a storm comes, but I love it when it rains.
Yeah.
Because roof repair, it's hard to ignore when your roof starts leaking. It's hard to ignore that. I mean, some people do. We've seen those things.
Yeah.
All right. So you're 60 days in. I just want to kind of switch to me now because this is all about me.
Of course it is.
I remember you saying, hey, I want to do a ride along with you. And so you did a ride along. Yeah. So you would ride along. What was the purpose of your ride along? Were you trying to test to see the loyalty, or were you just trying to learn about roofing? Were you just trying to get to know me?
No on the loyalty.
Yeah.
Because I figured out relatively quickly that you guys were the smart people that stayed recognized that Dr. Roof had a really good brand.
Yeah.
And the phone always rang. So you always had leads.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're there or not as a salesperson, whether it's you or any of the other salespeople, the phone was going to keep ringing. So whoever was taking those leads was going to be able to make a good living, because you could make a good living doing it as a salesperson. Really good living. And we paid well, and we paid on time, and all of that. So no, my agenda was really to learn the business, learn what it was like to listen to a pitch, try and become proficient in it, which I don't know that I ever really did, but also support, okay? Because nothing says more to a salesperson that, hey, my boss has my back.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that I had your back and was going to do whatever it took to help you get a sale done and help you get money for your family.
Yeah, it's funny. I've talked a lot, but I'm a college dropout that by the grace of God got into roofing. Craig Lipscomb interviewed me, and at that office where we met you on that deck, and this job has obviously changed my life and the trajectory of my life. And I love it so much. But I have to ask, I know I was a subcontractor, right? So
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, but legally,
yeah, that's right.
I was, and I tell people this all the time. So I'm a subcontractor, right? And I come to you and I'm I remember coming to you and I'm listen, man, I've got this job that it's a new construction job and it's a buddy of mine. I know I'm a 1099 subcontractor, but he wants me to do it. Dr. Roof doesn't want to do anything with new construction. You're absolutely not. We don't want anything to do. It's low margin. I was like, are you okay with doing it? He's like, yeah, you're fine to do it. Just don't use our people to do it. And so I went out and did that. And then like slowly, like it just started evolving to what it is now. Like I've always wondered this question. It's like, why were you okay with me like working for you? And you have provided this incredible life for me. It's like I'm making six figures. And I know the company's making money, but also I'm making money. But like, why were you okay with me starting my own company?
Look, I'm sure that I said this to you because nobody's going to take care of you except for you.
Yeah.
And what kind of a hypocrite would I be if I said that and didn't mean it? And so I knew that you had, and Tracy had designs on continuing to grow professionally, personally, economically. And there was only so much that you could do working for someone else.
Sure.
And so I never was like, anybody that tried to do better for themselves, who am I to tell them they can't do it? So I was always supportive of you going out and doing your thing, because I knew that I knew you by this time now. I knew you both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
We'd got to know each other pretty well by this time. And so I was okay with you, doing that because first of all, you were a subcontractor. Who am I to tell you you can't do what you're supposed to do? And then secondarily, I wanted you to be successful.
Yeah. I'm forever grateful to one, to David and Cheryl, but also to Brian and Diane for like what I have now, right? And what you guys have taught me through the years and what I've learned from you guys. And I've watched y'all make mistakes and I've made plenty of mistakes, but it's humbling to have you here with me in the room and ask you these questions because I have so much respect. And I try to put myself in the position that you were in as like somebody comes to me and is like, hey, I'm going to go start my own thing. And I would want to be as gracious as you were because listen, the girls, this is 2016. The girls were born in 2011. And so the girls are 5 years old. And I'm like, go to Tracy. I'm like, Tracy, I feel like we need to start our own thing. And she's like, well, how could we give up a job? And you basically were like, yeah, you can start your own thing. And so basically I was maintaining the paycheck from the company and then starting my own thing. So it's like, I never really like missed a paycheck. And I think a lot has to do with God and like, this is God's plan for my life and all those things. But I am grateful for like your friendship, but also for you just letting me do my own thing.
Oh goodness, Martin, you earned everything you've done. You're very talented. And we all knew that you were very, very talented, and there's no way we could say to you, I think it would be an incredibly selfish act for me to say, no, I'm going to block you or I'm going to fight you or I'm going to make your life miserable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not, people would watch that and say, what a hypocrite.
Yeah.
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean? If anybody ever did that, if you did that to one of your people, I don't think you would. And I would be disappointed if you did, because somebody's going to try and do well by you. They're going to remain loyal to you and they're going to also help you when you need help too.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. You've given me a lot of great advice on how to do these things. I'll never forget, and, probably don't owe you an apology, but to apologize, I changed my LinkedIn profile. Oh, and dude, I've never seen you mad other than on the golf course when you're mad at me for like not, hitting the shot.
Please, Martin, you're way better than me. And you know that. Stop this false
I'm not as good as you at under pressure though. Holy smokes.
Stop.
You can hold it.
Liar.
But I am sorry that I posted on my LinkedIn because then everyone started calling. It's like, how do you let this guy have his own roofing company and he still works here? And you're like, you need to take that down right now.
Yeah.
And so
well, but the funny thing is that what the emotion from that, quite frankly, came because nobody knew it, but I had an offer to sell the company.
Yeah,
and all that was happening in the middle of the company being sold. And so that made for me to have an uncomfortable conversation with the buyer that, oh, by the way, our top salesperson just quit. And
well, you were like in those moments, I didn't know it.
Yeah, I didn't, you can't. Yeah.
You were like, hey, just take one lead a day And I was like, okay, I'll take 1 lead a day. And then I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. And you're like, just take 1 lead a week.
Yeah,
and I
please.
didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
But if I pieced out on you, you had to notify them. But if I was still working, you didn't. But look how it worked out.
It worked out in the end. It worked out okay. Yeah. That was another scary moment because that's life-changing. You know, we grew the company well. The company did very, very well. And
you did good by the employees too.
I tried to.
Because I made a lot more money when you took over.
Yeah, that was important to me. Yeah. I held my word from the very first day. I wouldn't change your commission and I wouldn't change the culture of the company. I would try and improve it. And that was important to me.
And I think you really did. So then all of a sudden, like so you sell the company
2017.
5 years. So you own it 2012 to 2017.
Yep.
Why sell?
At the time, what I would have said was the business was getting to be too big for me. But when I look back on it now, I think it has to do with, because of my work pattern moving every 3 years, I had what you could say it was a playbook. Okay. That I ran out of stuff in my playbook after 5 years. And I didn't know how to take the business I took it from A to B, which was all sort of how I've always done things.
Yep.
But from B to C, D, E, I didn't have any more playbook. And I was nervous, I think, that I wasn't going to be able to be the right guy. And I felt like the business needed somebody else to run it in order to keep it going. And I didn't feel like I was the right guy to be able to do that at that time.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the economics of it. It was really just, I was nervous that I had run through my playbook and I was going to screw it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is something that happens a lot to entrepreneurs. You reach a level and you say, okay, now I'm going to stop doing that so I can protect the bottom line of the company.
Yep.
And that's never good.
Yep.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yep. I remember you saying that.
If you're not growing, you're dying. And the business was still growing, but it had sort of flattened out, and there was people who wanted to go in different directions, and I'd had good managers and employees who I'd empowered to be able to make decisions, and they were starting to fight me on things like, well, we need a new computer system, or we need to spend more money on this, or we need different that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
I don't want to get the guy a new truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm selling the company now. Or I don't want to, we bought a new building, which you've done.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to put anything at risk now that the company's doing as well as it was. And so I started to feel like maybe it's time. And then I wasn't actively looking, but then we were approached by someone with an offer from a company in Virginia. I don't even remember who it was. And we turned it down. And then I called an advisor and said, hey, here's who we are. Here's where we are. What do you think? And when he told me it could be worth this much money, I was like, well, maybe we should take a look at that.
Yeah.
And it was life-changing, obviously.
Yeah.
And
allows you to do dishes in Italy now.
It allows me to do dishes in Italy. and at the end of the day, I don't regret it at all. But at the same time, I do miss kind of that fun environment that we had, the underdog environment of trying to grow the company and do all that stuff. Yeah.
So what do you do now?
I just do board work. So I do kind of advisory stuff. So I'm on a board of a software company. I'm on the board of YEPA and an investor in that. I just joined the board of another roofing company here in Atlanta. And that keeps me busy, and I love the kind of advisory stuff. I love being the person that now. I had mentors when I was getting started, and I really enjoy now that I'm in this later stages of working life. I love doing that to help paying it forward, helping people to be able to,
be successful.
Yeah,
and take
like
what
you call me, and I try my best to give you
and it's
advice.
free for me.
It is free.
A lot of times you pay me because you pay for the golf. It's like it's pretty great relationship I have with you.
Yeah, it isn't bad, is it?
All right. So in closing, like looking back, all right, you have this hard reset where you're like up in the air, George Clooney, and it's like, so like, what do you wish in that moment that somebody would have told you it would look like 2024 BMAC?
Ooh, That's a good question. I think that everything will be okay. Because I think my greater fear was, I don't know if we talked about this earlier, but my greater fear was that I was going to miss my girls growing up. And I didn't, my dad wasn't around a lot. I'm a child of divorce. And I found myself missing things like, choirs or sporting events or whatever, and I didn't like that. And for me, I think that was really important for me on a personal level. That was kind of my personal reset was, what do I want to be remembered for by my kids? As a guy who was a loyal company guy who worked really hard. Is that what they're going to say about me at my funeral? That I'm a real good company guy who led a lot of people and everybody respected him or hated him or whatever because he made a lot of money for the shareholders? Or do I want to be a guy who people say he was a good dad, he cared about his family and his wife and his community, and that sort of hit home to me. Yeah, that I just felt that who do I want to be, and so that was. I wish somebody would have said, "Hey, this is where you need to go."
Yeah, move in this direction.
Yeah. Would
you say that roofing changed your life, or would you say that it's a conglomeration of all the things that, being a stock boy to, leading the East Coast?
What changed my life were the people along the way that helped me get to where I was going. And
that's that humbleness that you have that
I don't know
I called out in the beginning.
That's very kind of you, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
The reality is, growing up, I didn't have any expectations put upon me that I would really be successful.
Yeah.
Okay. It was not something that was really relayed to me. That was not I grew up with an alcohol mother, single mother, divorced dad, and I remember spending a lot of time alone growing up because I just was.
Yeah.
So by the time I'd worked my way through high school and then, somehow worked my way through college, didn't have a lot of direction, didn't have a lot of expectations, and really wasn't thinking that there was going to be a lot there. Just wanted a job.
Yeah.
All I wanted was a job. And I had a mentor in college who was a professor who said, you'd be good working in sales because salespeople make more money than doctors and lawyers. And I said, I never thought about that. And he's like, yeah, you should think about that because that's a great place for you to start because I think you've got, you can talk to people or whatever his rationale was. And I was like, it was a sales class that I took, sales and sales marketing or something.
Yeah.
In senior year. And he's like, you should look into that. That would be a good.
What was your major?
Business marketing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that mentor, I searched for those kinds of people my whole life. I still search for them to this day.
Yeah.
Who knows why, but I still search for those people because I'm just really attracted to people who are smarter than me and who are, interesting and can help me learn something
Sure.
new,
Yeah,
and you're that way too. I know you're very much interested. You're open-minded.
I'm the dumbest guy in the room, so I've got to ask those questions and be around those people because, the reason I have a holdings company is because I was like, hey man, I'm thinking about buying a commercial real. He's like, you got to start another company and I was like, oh, that's such great advice. That's why I try to, ask as many questions as I possibly can.
Yeah. Look, you're not the dumbest guy because the dumbest guy in the room hires people that he can control. The smartest guy in the room hires people who are smarter than him and puts them in a position to succeed. And you've clearly done that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for your friendship and you making the time for me to do this. Here's to many more conversations.
I look forward to it, Marty. And we'll play member guest soon.
Yes. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Man, BMAC, as I call him, Brian, BMAC is super smart. You can tell. I mean, I can't imagine being the president of a company at 28 years old, the president of a division of a company. And also, like, my story coincides with his, right? Because he came into the roofing industry when I was, 6 years into it, and he needed me and I needed him. And then for him to just be okay with me starting my own roofing company and still working with him is just a testament to the kind of guy he is. So genuine and real. And I'm grateful for him taking the time, but also him allowing me to kind of go off and do this new adventure that we're on right now. If you liked it, we would love for you to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified every time. I love getting text messages and phone calls from you guys just saying, hey, love the episode. What really helps more than those phone calls and text messages is if you tell someone that needs a roof or a roof repair, gutter cleaning, roof cleaning, anything to do with that. That's going to help us keep this thing going and helps the phone ring. And being a small business, like, we need the phone to ring because we need to be out helping people all over the Southeast. So if you know of someone that needs a new roof or anything roof related, we'd love the opportunity for you to share a little bit about us. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.